Hi, everyone, and welcome. I thought on this rainy day I would escape and invite you along into Alice in Wonderland. And I'm just sort of trying to figure out why I'm so obsessed with Alice. But I have all these wonderful decks here. I have books that I've been, hunting through thrift stores for and always bring home. And I brought out as well an oracle that I made a few years ago, and I was managing to gather some charms, and I'll show you those as well. So sit back, let's have some fun, and escape into Alice in Wonderland. Now I'm going to pull this aside and read some of the artist's prose inside, but also show you another deck that I found a few years ago, really inexpensive, online from a separate seller. And this is the Macmillan Alice pack of cards. And it's nice because it does bring in Lewis Carroll's classic storyline and original illustrations by John Tenniel. So it's a 52 card deck that I can also play with. And it is wonderful to remember back into the story where the cards all came to life. And so I thought I'd put these out here and show you the backs. And we'll just look through a couple cards where I read just two paragraphs from the start of the Lewis Carroll book. Now, I did do a very childlike review of this after I read it, and I never did get rid of this book. So I'm just going to set it aside, as I say, and let's enjoy ourselves. Now, he says on page 10, and there are really some nice engravings in here, and it's still wonderful to pick it up and read it, but he talks about doing his work as far as creating this. So he says, thus grew the tale of Wonderland, thus slowly, one by one. And let's zoom in there so you can see them just a wee bit better. Its quaint events were hammered out, and now the tale is done. And home we steer a merry crew beneath the setting sun. Alice, a childish story take, and with a gentle hand lay it where childhood dreams are twined in memories of mystic band, like pilgrims' withered wreath of flowers plucked in a far-off land. So you can see some of the cards there. They are bright, they are clear, they are wonderful illustrations, and it's something that I can play along with when I go through this book, from time to time, just bringing it back and enjoying the illustrations and the storylines. And I tore out the first page, so I can't tell you what year this was printed in. But I think my obsession is that I like what the storyline, I guess, inspires, because the character finds her strength. And despite all the things that she has to go through in Wonderland, in the end, it seems to all work out. And I think it's very empowering. And it's not just Alice, although she is the main character, that is so empowering. Each of the characters within the story seem to find their way. And I think by her challenging situations that come up, she gains strength and they gain understanding. So it really is a storyline that still today empowers. And, it takes you back to those simple times when fantasy was a wonderful thing to escape into. And I just don't know if the kids have those same types of simple books they can pick up and find inspiration from and return to over and over again. So that's some of the cards from that Macmillan deck. Now, because it is a playing card deck, you could rifle shuffle. I never used to rifle shuffle my decks. This one isn't going to go too well because it's still fairly crisp and clean. But, even for overhand shuffling, you could use it like an oracle and certainly bring in the old-fashioned gypsy way of reading the cards. It really is fun. But let's move on. I'm not going to show all my Alice decks that I showed off to the side there because I have shown those many times. But let's take a look at a couple more books here. This is an oldie, definitely. And I'll zoom back out. And it's nice to see the engravings inside. Let's see if we can find a printing date. There's the editor there. And I think some child did do some coloring within here. It wasn't myself. This is put out by the World Publishing Company. You can see there. Get it in focus. And it's the Adventures in Wonderland. So there it is down here, possibly 1946. And it is a lovely book. I'm just going to adjust the camera so we're a little bit more over top. Now, it is a book where, creatures large and small just seem to morph. They have voices. They speak to us. And some child decided that they loved yellow, obviously. But, the Tea Party, that is something that still resonates with me. But it seems like every step forward in this book is a step that, Alice finds herself. She finds her voice, she finds her strength, and it is marvelous. And I'm wondering if there are other characters that empower us as much. And I did find a couple decks that I pulled off the shelf. This one, Vanessa Tarot, I think this has even though it seems to be girl power in here, it is very empowering the way that the situations appear in the cards. And the women just sort of take charge. There is our Five of Cups. So they're dealing with some disappointments, but I like the support that the other character here gives to this card. She's probably saying something like, yes, things have not gone well for you, but come on, look at these Two of Cups that are still here. That looks like a very hip kind of powerful woman there. Two Lovers taking a leap of faith. Look at these ladies. The sassy haircuts. There's a woman is, doing her own carpentry. So I think I'm looking for decks these days where the character really has strength. And maybe even in the book, that storyline carries over and, gives us strength. So if you want to, I'm interested in hearing from you. What characters in your decks have you really, set a relationship up with where you feel stronger? She's got the keys there, the Ten of Coins. She's the one with the power, the strength. And, she probably earned it. She took steps to get herself there. Stepping out into the unknown like this Knight of Wands. Very powerful. In control, the Strength card. So that is the Vanessa Tarot. Now I had one other tarot that I wanted to show where I think it's fairy tale and empowering as well. And that is the one I showed lately on my channel, The Wizard of Oz. So it's another one like Alice that many of us grew up with. This is put out by Insight Editions. And again, you've got this character who meets other people on their path, their journey, and finding their way forward. And in the end, they win against the Wicked Witch, but they win by finding their strength. So again, another very empowering storyline that has been put into a deck that I guess we could use as a type of journey deck for ourselves wherever we are in our lives and the trials and tribulations that we're experiencing. You know, who's the fairy godmother that sort of helps us out of a difficult situation? So another wonderful deck, as I said, to empower and move us forward. Now, let's take a look at my Alice Oracle. Okay, I found this Easter tin and added some, some pictures from books, I guess. I found a key that represent, so much within the Alice in Wonderland, and got it for 30 cents at a thrift store, but it holds my cards rather nice. And I used to take these traveling, so I would have some, matches in there, a candle. Sometimes if I could squeeze in a little cloth to lay the cards out on, I used to take a ferry back and forth from the mainland, and, it was fun to play for 2.5 hours with something entertaining. So I just found some thrift store cards, and some old books, rummaging through the children's section. This is not the most appropriate back, but it was all I could find at the time. And these, get them the right way around, are some of the oracle cards that came to be from the books. Now, none of these are numbered, but images that meant something to me, and it was therapeutic to do. Some of them go horizontal. I just tried to find as many pictures to bring back all of the scenes that meant something to me, and then others that, could stimulate the imagination. That's quite a cat there. Oops. The rabbit. And I even put in some of the writings. Because, when you're doing a reading for yourself, some words trigger different thoughts and bring you to those insights that we really need. And if we look at life like an adventure and play and not take things so seriously some days, life just seems a little bit more simple and enjoyable. And I think it's the simplicity of what this story gave me, I guess, when I was growing up, that I still reach back for. The world that we could escape into, and anything's possible. I loved the colors. I don't remember what book I took these from. I just used a glue stick and put them on. And it's got to be 8-10 years ago that I did this deck. That would be Alice's sister reading under the tree. And there would be some of the liquid pouring from those drink me bottles. And sometimes it's nice not to have numbers, not to have words. And that brings a little bit more peacefulness to your meditative type readings. And those are the cards all lining up. But that's a pretty one. You know, when was the last time we just sat by the river's edge and played, watched the water, listened to the birds? So that is my little oracle. Not that little, I guess it's kind of chunky. So we'll put this here, and if I zoom in and get these debris that falls on a black cloth is amazing. So these are the Alice charms. And I do like this bowl, if I zoom out, because I like the sound that the charms make in it. It's oversized like at the tea party with the Mad Hatter. And, you know, some of them sort of repeat in here, but you could bring different, like for the clocks, they all have different times. And so you could bring your own ideas to that to stimulate. So I'm just going to lay them all out here. I'll zoom in again and give you an idea, maybe, whoops, upside down. There we go, of how they would look with some of the cards. Okay, and you just find these things at thrift stores or wherever, toy sections. So there's the Mad Hatter's hat. Of course, you've got to have a rabbit or two running amok. Teapot, definitely got to have a teapot. And it's nice when you let them fall and they end up on the cards, and you can just sort of let the story unfold. I guess this is from more the Johnny Depp movie where she goes after the Jabberwocky. So I had to have a sword. There's another one of those drink me bottles. The little tortoise or salamander. And I liked the idea of the mirror so we could reflect on some of the things that happen in our world. See, there's another clock. I put this in for the Jabberwocky. I know it's not in just the first initial books of Alice, but I did like that where she slayed the dragon. There's another little rabbit. Hard to get in focus. Okay, what else have I got? I liked this one because you've got, again, in that Johnny Depp movie, this is a raven. You know, why is the raven like a writing desk? Not the best Cheshire cat, but what I could find at the time. Keys are very important, so you got to have keys. And I even found a little Alice. Fun. So, you can add what you want. I've got a little kettle here, something perking, simmering. And the idea is just to bring a storyline. This could be the two boys that we have. I forgot, that escapes me. Tweedledum and Tweedledee, that could be that one. More teapots, more rabbits. I found a tree, so that is something that I thought was memorable because she starts out below the tree and falls asleep. There is my Jabberwocky. And this could be the Red Queen. There's a lock to represent those doors that she had to find the key for in order to go forward. This is that horse, the rocking horse. Another clock, weighing the scales. The piano, I don't know, I threw that in just for the fun of it. And then another little rabbit. So that is my collection of charms, and stick them all back in here. And I'll give you that sense of when you come for a charm reading, you know, that the swishing and then picking a few and letting them drop. And then, you know, sometimes I don't read the upside down ones, or you bring that to the storyline where the Cheshire Cat can't help you at this time. There's no way of leading you forward. You might have to find your own way. You've got a teapot, the Red Queen, and the Jabberwocky is upside down. So there's so many storylines that you can bring to it with the charms. And, you know, pick your cloth. Get confidence by building that connection to some deck that you like to work with. Bring out the charms and really add another dimension to your readings. Now that shows a few more of the books up close. This one was fun, Alice's Adventures Underground. And it's giving that idea of things being handwritten, which lends that sort of personal touch, more like a diary that maybe Alice is writing to us as we search through for ideas. How cheerfully it seems to grin, how neatly spreads its claws, and welcomes little fishes in with gently smiling jaws. So that is that one. Here's another one. I look for ones that definitely have illustrations, and this one is exceptional with the coloring in it. I can find a few more. Not all of them are colored, I see now, but you know, when you do get one, great fun. This one was a set. So you've got Alice's Adventures in Wonderland in a hardcover type book, and you've got, we'll zoom out here, Alice Through the Looking Glass. So these have been fun to read, and I just can't seem to part with these books. And the one other thing to show is these silly little things that I found if I want to decorate the table. Again, a fun little Easter box seems to be where I find rabbits and things. So if I'm having a tea party reading, I found these napkins that are great for, you know, bringing some color to the table. And then I was in it was like a card shop one day, and I found these. And they are absolutely fun. So I've got the Red Queen that I can set on the table. And I'll do that at the end. I'll just pull these out and pull them all and put the little clip on so you can see. So there's an Alice one. There is a rabbit. And there is the Mad Hatter. So let's see what they look like. So these are like table party fare, I guess. And there's 4 in the set that I found when I was at that little card shop one day. And I thought, when you set up a table, how fun is this? And then you bring in the charms, you have tea, you read the cards, and everybody has a little bit of fun. So, this is my Alice collection. Now, maybe you have an obsession with a deity and you don't know how to explain your attraction to her. Maybe you can show me some of the things that you bring to the table, the cards, the little things that allow you to escape into that world, or other decks, as I say, that just empower you, like this Alice deck does for me. Everybody, I hope you had fun and enjoyed these little escapades of mine, and we'll catch you back here another day.